Hi, and welcome to today's session on the preview of new features in Blackboard Learn 9.1, Service Pack 12 and 14. Here at Northern Illinois University, we anticipate making the upgrade from Service Pack 11 to Service Pack 14 this coming May 23rd through 26th approximately. And picking up in the process then some features from Service Pack 12 that I'll be highlighting today as well. My name is Stephanie Richter. I'm the Assistant Director here of the Faculty Development and Instructional Design Center at Northern Illinois University. And I want to thank you all for joining today to learn just a little bit about Blackboard and some of the new features and the enhancements that are coming this May. But I want to start by looking at the usage of Blackboard here at NIU. We've seen a lot of growth, and I thought I would share that with you today. So as of this last fall, we had 95% of students across NIU using Blackboard for at least one of their courses, and a record 92% of instructional faculty, staff, teaching assistants who are, again, teaching at least one of their courses using Blackboard. That amounted to about 67% of the course sections available, including things like independent study and cross-listed courses, and approximately 4.25 course sections then per student on Blackboard. If you're watching the archive in particular and haven't been to our site, niu.edu/blackboard is where we manage and maintain all of our documentation and information about using Blackboard here at NIU. Here you can see the sort of growth over time. We are seeing a decrease in numbers of students, but that's in line with the decrease in enrollment that we've been seeing here at NIU as well. But this fall that was 95%, which is really, I think, quite substantial. It's nearly all of our students using Blackboard for at least one course. And then a continued growth of the number of faculty, instructors, staff, and teaching assistants who are using at least one course of theirs here in Blackboard. And then here's the growth in course sections. We saw actually quite a significant jump in that this last fall, from last fall to this fall being the green bars. And we're up to 67% of course sections. And then 85,000 individual enrollments. So this is students enrolled in multiple courses at a time. And that comes out to just over 4 classes per student, which for many of our students could be all of their courses then. There's also a mobile Learn app for Blackboard that students and faculty can use to connect to their courses on the go. This app is available for iPhone, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry. And here at Northern Illinois University, right now is available for free for all of our students and faculty to use to connect to the courses they're already enrolled in on Blackboard. And here again, we've seen actually some tremendous growth as well. This last year, 24,000 unique users. And you can see as well the jump from here's the peak during finals week last fall to this spring. We're seeing significantly higher usage again of the Blackboard mobile app for accessing courses, checking grades, maybe participating in discussions or other dialogues. Chuck, right now there are no plans to make a mobile app available for Windows devices. That's been an ongoing debate with Blackboard, whether or not they've found significant value in doing so. You can, however, log into the course directly through the browser on a Windows device fairly accurately. And Amanda, for the app is free when you download it. The Mobile Learn app is free, and then once you're into it, you can search for NIU and connect to it through there. I would encourage you to contact us if you have any questions with that. But it's a tremendous resource that, again, is seeing significant growth here on campus. There's actually very few times, there's maybe here in this 3 to 4 a.m. window where students are not accessing Blackboard, but essentially from about 9 a.m. to about 11 p.m., students and faculty both are using this app at very large rates. And then, as I mentioned, there's also the Blackboard Collaborate mobile app that we have access to here that would allow you to participate in a live Collaborate session like this from iPhone, iPad, or Android. We don't have statistics on the use of this, but I encourage you, if you use Collaborate in your courses, to let students know that that is an option for them if they're having issues with connectivity or with finding a location where they can be to participate in your sessions. We have now, until the end of the hour, I'm going to run through at a very high level many of the new features that are coming in Blackboard Learn 9.1 Service Pack 14. As I said, we're picking up a few that were in Service Pack 12 as well. So a few, they're not legal warnings, but a few caveats to this. This is an anticipated upgrade still. We expect to, but with technology, there's always the possibility for last-minute hitches. But we anticipate the upgrade then May 23rd through 26th. There will be an outage for probably 2 or 3 days during that window. More details will come out from ITS soon. And then as well, I want to highlight that there are new features still under review as part of this discussion that may not be part of the upgrade in the end. We hope that they are, but there's always, again, the possibility that those will not be. So if you want more information about the upgrade, go to niu.edu/blackboard/upgrade. This site has all of the information about upcoming features, workshops, tutorials. We have webinars like this one that we've offered, as well as guides and tutorials from Blackboard that support all of these new features that are coming out. And I'll give you this URL again at the end just as a reminder so that you can go and look and explore all of those additional features. So I've divided this year, every year when we kind of look at the landscape of what's coming. Sometimes there are a lot of really big new features that are critical. Sometimes it's some minor enhancements. This year we have a little bit of both, where we do have some new features that may be important to some of you and may not be, but they are brand new here in Blackboard. And then there are also some enhancements to the existing features that will make a big difference in, I think, how useful some of those features are. So we'll kind of divide our discussion today into those two categories. First, we'll look at brand new features, and we'll also look at some enhancements and changes that have been made to existing features. No, Isabel, unfortunately spell check that's part of the content editor, and that is not one of the items being upgraded or enhanced or modified this time around. Starting with the new features though, I want to highlight before we get into the brand new features from this update, this is actually a new feature from a few upgrades ago that we did not turn on here at NIU. There is a feature in Blackboard called Social Profiles and Social Tools that is being reviewed by various groups across campus to determine whether or not it is we're able to turn that on this time. So the social profiles, if those were made available, allow students to build a profile with a photo and some information about themselves, as well as enable some informal social spaces where students could form groups or discussions outside of a course, but still within Blackboard. So again, I want to highlight this now because you will see throughout the presentation today these small profile photos elsewhere in the screenshots. So where you see those, they may be available, they may not, but again, that's being reviewed closely by several key entities here on campus to determine whether or not they're comfortable turning that on. The first tool that will definitely be on, this one is not controversial whatsoever, and it is a fantastic boost to what we have available, is the Quick Links tool. Quick Links is designed for students and faculty who navigate with a keyboard as opposed to with a mouse. So if you use a screen reader, or if you're sighted but still use a keyboard for your navigation because of a physical disability, Quick Links is going to be a small icon in the upper left side of the course throughout Blackboard that you can activate to get a list of all of the landmarks and links on the page, as well as to the right a summary of the keyboard shortcuts that can be used to access additional tools on that page. This doesn't change the functionality of Blackboard overall, but it does make navigating Blackboard significantly easier for those who do navigate only via keyboard as opposed to a mouse. So we're very excited to have this accessibility feature added to Blackboard. The first really big feature that you'll see now in Blackboard is called Achievements. And here's the first example of where there's a profile photo that may or may not be visible after the upgrade. So the Achievements feature offers you the ability as faculty and instructors to reward and recognize your students for the achievements they've made in your course. I have just a few bullets I'll share about this. Through the Achievements tool, you can issue badges and certificates, both digital, although certificates can be printed so students can have a physical recognition with them, and allows you then to build in milestones throughout the course, for example, mastering a particular topic or subject or reaching the midpoint of the course. It also allows you to recognize them for significant contributions, perhaps for being a discussion leader or going above and beyond the course expectations in some way. This is based on rules for meeting requirements in your course. These are similar to adaptive release rules if you've ever used those. For example, you can set these based on submitting an assignment or having a certain grade on a particular assignment or a certain grade overall. You can also set these based on review status if they've marked certain items reviewed. And when you combine various different components, you can then give them a badge or a certificate for having achieved an acceptable grade on all of the assignments for a particular topic, for example. For badges in particular, this is part of a new Open Badges movement that is really sweeping instructional technology and informal learning around the world, where students can, anyone can, collect, display, and create digital badges to recognize learning, achievement, and ongoing growth. So the badges here in Blackboard tie into the Mozilla Open Badges project and can be displayed, can be sent to their Open Badges backpack. This lets students then take the badges that are issued in their course and then display those publicly at their own choice, at their own discretion, if they chose to do so. It also lets them keep those as digital artifacts for the rest of their ongoing lifelong learning career. So if you recognize them for displaying leadership in your course, for example, they can display that proudly when they're looking for, conducting a job search or looking for internships. So it takes the specific skills and traits that they're learning and displaying in your course and lets them really leverage that further for ongoing career success. I highly encourage you to look into these more. If you want to know more about Open Badges in general, I would go to openbadges.org, and then we will have a specific workshop targeting achievements where you can learn all about badging, certificates, and how to create and use these later on in the summer. But Achievements, I think, is by far one of my favorite new features that are coming here in this upgrade. Another new feature that is brand new and really fairly large is called Explore. Explore stands for Cross-Platform Learning Object Repository. So it's a good thing that it's called Explore because that's a mouthful. Explore lets you find and create as well as share content in within NIU and across institutions. So for example, you can create content here that you'll share with colleagues maybe within your department. And then they can, from Blackboard, you access Explore, create your content. Your colleague can log into Explore and pull that content down into their own course. You can determine who has access, who's allowed to see this, whether it's just specific colleagues here, or you can make it public and share your content, your tools with others at other institutions who may benefit from that, who are maybe teaching similar courses elsewhere. You can also use content from other sources through Explore. So once you're in, you can discover other content and find things that maybe were made by other entities or other institutions where, again, they've shared their materials for the benefit of everyone. Explore here is at NIU, it's part of our content system repository. So our faculty can create content. At other institutions, they're only able to use content. And again, we'll have more detailed workshops on Explore coming later. But the keys here are the ability to create, share, and use content from others. The cross-platform piece that I haven't addressed yet has to do with the fact that content in Explore is optimized to be used not only in Blackboard, but also in other learning management systems. So once you've created the content, it could be used potentially at other schools who are not using Blackboard and are using other systems. Again, a fantastic new feature coming with this next upgrade, and the one that I encourage you to dig into at a workshop coming later this summer. Another tool that is currently under review and may be part of the upgrade is a new streaming media option. So we are currently testing, along with ITS, the Helix media server integration. What this does is it gives you and students both the ability to upload video to a server that is optimized for streaming video. Right now, if you have a video that you want to share with students, you can upload that directly into Blackboard. But Blackboard isn't really designed for playing video, so there are some problems. There are also space limitations for the size of the videos that you can upload. The Helix Media Server is a mashup, so it displays in the content editor under the mashup option, which allows you to upload a video then for streaming to your students. You can do it from any content editor in Blackboard. So any place where you see this text box editor where you can type in content. That means you could do it when you're creating an item. You could do it when you're creating an assignment and provide instructions via video. You could do it on the discussion board and again post your commentary via discussion. You can also do it through the Grade Center. If you have recorded yourself giving some feedback, you could save that video. And as you're grading a student's submission, you could then upload that video to the Helix Media Server, and it would only be visible then to that student for you to provide them with video dialogue feedback. And then the third point about the Helix Media Server I want to highlight is that it's available for both faculty and for students. So if you have recorded a video that you want to share, you can do that via the Helix Media Server. However, your students will also have access to this anywhere that they have the text box editor. So you can create an assignment with video instructions, but your students could also create a video and upload that as their assignment submission. We've had a lot of questions lately on the easiest way for students to do that, and thus far it's really been problematic. So we hope that we'll be able to move forward with this and that it will be a valuable tool then for students to begin creating their own video content and sharing that within the course, either through an assignment so that you as faculty can see it, or on the discussion board so that students can view each other's and comment and provide critique. Yes, Jason, this one alone has some really exciting pedagogical options for the way that we teach the students and the way that students create and share content back with us. I'm very excited. This is a new tool that we would be integrating into Blackboard. and one that we're very hopeful for. And feel free, please do contact us if you're interested in trying this out, and we'll get you started with some ideas and some options and walk you through the process. It's not the easiest, but it's also really quite simple to go through and just click through some options and set it up in your course. I think the hardest part is probably the video creation. That would be Dan's department. Dan here is in the room. He's our multimedia coordinator and can help you with all of your video creation needs as well. Yes, Dan gave a check mark of approval. Another new tool that will certainly ease the process from one semester to the next is the date management tool. Currently, if you have your course set up with availability dates and due dates, when you copy your course to the next semester, you have to manually adjust every one of those dates. The date management tool allows you to simplify that rollover process. So when you complete a course copy from one semester to another, then you can launch this date management tool and actually specify to Blackboard when the last course started and when this next semester starts, and Blackboard will automatically migrate your dates forward to the new semester based on the timing between them. So if you had something that came up every Monday, that will come up again every Monday in your new semester. Yes, May, it's really great. It's not going to be perfect, but it will give you a much quicker transition from one semester to the next. Once you've completed the date rollover, then you'll also be able to view all of the dates for all of your content and assignments here on one page. So you'll be able to see, for example, every weekly folder and what the availability dates are. And if you need to nudge them a little bit, you can do that from here instead of going into and editing every single folder and every single item. You can also see and modify all of the due dates from here as well. So yes, Jason, there's no excuse for not using due dates. I think that's one of the features that can really revolutionize the way that your students view your content and your assignments, because those due dates show up on the assignment or the quiz, the test. They show up in the notification alerts. They show up on the calendar. So using those due dates really does generate a lot of power for you in how your students view those and how they keep up to date on what's due and coming in your course. So now with the date rollover, you can push all of those due dates to the next semester, and then you can tweak those here with one view of all of them in one place. A tremendously powerful tool that will make that course setup and course migration process easier. Another tool that is currently under review by, again, several groups here at NIU is the Enterprise Survey and Course Evaluation tool. And this was originally introduced in the past expansion pack, or past service pack, but we've been working with ITS and various other groups on campus to determine how this would be used here at NIU and what we might need to do to make it most effective. The Enterprise Survey tool will allow us to essentially manage course evaluations through Blackboard. So when students would log into a course, they would get a notification visible in Blackboard to complete their course evaluation instead of just getting an email. They would get the email as well, though. And then allows for quicker, cleaner, tighter comparison across semesters as well. The Enterprise Survey side of the course evaluation tool would allow us at NIU to implement surveys to students, faculty, staff across NIU through Blackboard, as well as with partners and community members outside of NIU, and easily manage all of the results then within Blackboard. So as I said, this tool is going to be available and is currently under review for potential use here at NIU. Parush, I definitely think there are ways that this could be used at a department level for accreditation purposes. I'm going to push you to Jason Rohde. He's been spearheading our analysis of this and can get in touch with you perhaps for looking at how you might use that and how it would go about being set up. As Jason says, it is still being explored, but the potential would be there. I'm going to pause for a second. If there are any other questions at this point, feel free to raise your hand or post those in the text chat. Just take a quick look. No one seems to be typing, so I'm going to assume that we're good to move forward. So those are the brand new, sort of revolutionary new features. Now I want to look at the enhancements to existing features and how these will continue to simplify and streamline the process of using Blackboard in your teaching and with your students. The first enhancements I'll share have to do with tests, and there are several of them. Nothing changes the core functionality of a test. They'll still work in the same way you're accustomed to, but you'll see some enhancements, I think, that will make them much easier for you to manage and use. The first one is actually just a little plus button that you'll see now when you're creating a test on the test canvas. As you build questions now, every new question goes automatically at the end, and then you can rearrange your questions to the order you want. Now, you can still use the Create a Question button to add a question at the bottom of the exam, or you can use this plus button that will appear before and between all of your questions, as well as at the end of the test, so that you can add your new question exactly where you want it to be inside of your test. You notice when you click that plus button, you get a menu of all of the question types, so you're not limited to adding the same question type as the question above. You can just insert and then begin creating your question. The second test enhancement is probably my second favorite feature as part of this upgrade, and that is an enhancement to test availability. Right now, there's a problem in Blackboard. If you have set settings for your test, those apply unilaterally to all of the students in your course. So for example, when you set a timer, all of the students have to accommodate that single timer, whereas at NIU we have a very diverse group of students, and so many of our students have accommodation requests through, for example, the Disability Resource Center for an extended test-taking time. And there is no way in Blackboard now to accommodate that. Going forward, the test availability exceptions allows you to set an exception for the number of attempts, the timer, the availability dates, and whether or not the test has forces completion for either individual students or for a group of students. So for example, again, if you have a student who needs extended test-taking time, you can add an exception here that says that that student gets a different timer length. And then it's invisible. Every student gets the timer that's specified for them. You can also set a different availability date. So again, if you have a student athlete perhaps who will be out at an event while the test is being conducted in Blackboard, you can actually set an availability time that's either slightly ahead or slightly after, whatever you've negotiated with that student, so that they can automatically then come in and take the test during their availability dates in their window as opposed to the normal window. In the past, you've had to change settings at different times for different students, or in the case of the timer, we've had to help faculty actually deploy multiple versions of a test, which gets really messy really quickly. So in the meantime, using these test availability exceptions will make that process much, much easier. I'm going to pick up Purush. I see you had a question. Can we add new questions to a pool as well? And Purush, yes, that same plus button is going to exists in a pool as well as the test canvas. It's just on the Canvas page is where that plus will be. On a pool then, you can pull those questions into a test, but you can't from the test create a question that you push to the pool, if that makes sense. So tests and pools are still separate creations, but then you can build the pool perhaps a little bit easier, and you can pull those questions into the test. I hope that answered your question. Yes, okay, great. The third test enhancement has to do with the feedback that you show to your students. So again, now you have several options. You can show students a score. You can show them the submitted answers. You can show them the correct answers. Or you can show the feedback. And those just have a simple checkbox. You can change those as time goes on if you want to. Right now, just show them their score, but later you can edit that and also show them what the correct answers were. That's within your control, but you have to do that manually. Going forward now, there's a test results and feedback option that lets you do that according to a set schedule. So you can show, for example, right after students have submitted, you might just show them their score, or and then later you can say maybe after the due date for the test, then they can see their correct answer and submitted answers. You could choose to also show them now a new feedback option that you didn't have before, would be to just show them their incorrect questions. So maybe after submission you want to show them what their score was and which ones they got wrong, and then later you can go back and maybe show correct or submitted. So now you can set two different options for your schedule, what you want students to see maybe right after submission, and then later what you want students to see maybe after all of the attempts are graded, or perhaps after the due date has passed, after the availability window has closed. There are several options for what that schedule might be, and that's all within your control. No more manual adjustment, it will happen automatically. There are also several enhancements to the way that groups are created and managed. So one of the most obvious ones will be when you try to add users into a group. Again, now when you add users to a group, you have two little boxes, one that lists all of the students and one that lists the students who are in the group. And it's a bit cumbersome to scroll through and select multiples at a time. So now when you go to add users to a group, it opens up a pop-up window. If you've ever used, as Prush mentioned, the pool for adding questions to a test, this is kind of like that, where when you click it, you get this pop-up window. You can go through and you can select, click the checkbox for all of the students that you want to be in that group. So I could click several. It will tell you at the bottom of the window how many users are currently selected, and then you can submit that to add all of those users at once. You'll also notice that if the social tools are made available following the upgrade, that students' profile photos are visible here as well, which will help you perhaps distinguish between students if you know them in class, but you can't quite remember their name. The photos might help you identify those students as well. But again, that is currently under review. Another interesting enhancement here to the groups management is a common task after creating a group is to create a smart view in the grade center. A smart view filters out so you can only see students who are in a particular group. It's very useful for taking a large course and breaking it down maybe by lab sections or by discussion groups, and then you can focus on just those students in the grade center. Currently, you go, after you've made the group, you go to the Grade Center, select Manage Smart Views, and you have to go through several instances of settings in order to create that smart view for the group. Now, when you're at your Groups Management page that lists all of the groups, you can open the drop-down menu and simply create Smart View, and that will automatically create a smart view for that group. This bulk page where you see all of the groups listed also now will tell you more of the settings of those groups as well. So you'll be able to see at a glance which tools you have enabled, like discussion boards, group logs, etc., and change those from this group page view instead of going into the settings for each group individually. And then lastly, now with the groups management page, you're able to see a list not only of each group, but you can see a list of all of the students in the course and which group that student is affiliated with. It's an easy way to tell maybe if there's a student who has not been associated with a group yet, and to see maybe where groups intersect. So for example, in this sample course, Kevin Anderson is in Section 2, but there's also a special group for senior students. And so you can see that he is actually in 2 groups in the course, whereas Ashby Cooper is only in the Section 1 group. To get to this page, this is not the normal users page in your course. This is under groups, and then there's a tab for all users in the upper corner. So the all groups is the traditional view of the group pages, but you can also now go to this new all users page that will list the students and their group affiliation. I also want to highlight some changes coming to Blackboard Collaborate, and not to the tool itself. The Collaborate tool itself will stay as you've come to know and love it, but the building block, the integration in Blackboard, is going to change to become really, we think, much easier to use. So this streamlines the process of using Collaborate with your courses. When you go to the Blackboard Collaborate tool now, you'll see 3 primary blocks here. The first is a persistent room for your course. This room is automatically created. It's always available. So you don't need to schedule a session for your course anymore. You can, but if you would like to, you could just use this one course room for all of your interactions, or for a quick ad hoc meeting if you needed to get together with some students online. Instead of scheduling a session, you don't have to do that now. You could just ask them all to go into this course room. There's also now a new persistent Collaborate session for every faculty member and instructor. So as an instructor, I would have my own Collaborate room that I can access through each of my courses, but this is shared across all of the courses that I teach. So if I wanted to hold office hours through Blackboard Collaborate, instead of creating a session and setting it up so that it's shared among courses, I could ask students to go to my personal Collaborate session. And then whatever section they're from, they would all come into the same session, and I would be able to interact with them all together. This is also useful if you have maybe cross-listed sections that you would want to meet together without creating a master course in Blackboard, or if you wanted to maybe have several of your courses all meet with the same guest speaker perhaps. Instead of scheduling a session or using a course room, you can use your own personal faculty member room. And then lastly, as before, as always, you are able to schedule a session specifically. So if you have weekly meetings and you want those scheduled so that they appear on the calendar, you can use the schedule session to do so. There is a new feature now where you can set your own defaults. So if you wanted to change the default settings for your sessions that you schedule, you can do that and not change those settings each time. When you schedule a session now, Blackboard has also streamlined the way that those settings are viewed. So now, within this, you create a session name, give it a start time and an ending time, and the rest of the settings that used to be in tabs kind of across the top of the screen and easy to lose track of are now in these easy to view collapsible menus. So if I wanted to change the session type, by default it would be a course level, but if I wanted to make it shared, I could pop that open and change the setting. If I want to change the room attributes, for example, what permissions my students have when they come into the room. Do they have moderator privileges or not moderator? Do they have whiteboard and chat privileges or not? How many speakers can talk at the same time? Those types of settings are all here under room attributes. I can set up the Grade Center integration so that I could automatically send attendance results to the Grade Center. And if I didn't want to have default roles where I'm the moderator and my students are participants, I can also manually assign roles here under this collapsible menu. So now it's all on one page instead of multiple tabs with one save button, and it's much easier to navigate overall. I also want to go back for a moment and point out on the Collaborate tool page then, there's an easily visible link to allow guests into your room. So if you're creating a session for a guest speaker, you can click that Allow Guests and get the link then for the guest speaker who doesn't need to log into Blackboard. Before, this was hidden again in several layers of settings. Now that Allow Guest option is highly visible and easy to access. There are also changes coming to the inline grading feature. We've had this now for a year for assignments, and I think it's been very well received. Inline grading added the functionality of actually embedding the student's submission visibly while you're grading. So instead of having to download a student's paper, open it, grade it, you can actually just now view that in Blackboard as long as it is a PDF, a Word document, a PowerPoint. There are an Excel document. There are a few others, but those are the primary file options. It greatly streamlined the process of grading. Well, now the one enhancement to this, because you don't mess with what works, and this has been working, is now there's an arrow here at the far right that lets you collapse and expand the grading sidebar, where you would actually enter a grade or type grading feedback. This lets you focus more on the reading, grading, and annotating aspect of grading, and then you can pop that back open when you're ready to enter a grade or specify a rubric result. But the full screen view makes it much easier to see and focus on the grading. The other enhancement to inline grading is that the sidebar now, not the annotation, but the sidebar is consistent across other assessment types. So we have inline grading for assignments. Now this sidebar is going to be consistent for other gradable tools like blogs, wikis, journals, and discussions. That way you have a consistent and familiar interface across all of those tools, and really a much easier to use interface than what, for example, the blog grading sidebar looked like. I see another question here from Parush. In the current version, when the students print the graded assignment, the comments are not printed. So that should be, has to do with how they download it. If they download the annotated PDF, that should have the comments that are in the bubbles at least, these here to the side. Those would be in the annotated PDF. Any setting about those being visible would be an Adobe Reader setting, because that's what would manage the PDF version. Any comments that you put in the sidebar, in that, if I go back to this view, in the grading sidebar, those would not be printed because those are not part of that same document. So if you want students to be able to print all of those together, that's where, if I go back, that's where the bubble in the sidebar would allow them to at least download the PDF, and then, as I said, it's probably an Adobe Reader setting to make those visible when they print that off. But good question. Thank you for that. And then there are also now settings for My Grades. These are either, some of these are for the Grade Center, some are for My Grades in particular. And again, these are mostly small enhancements, but that fix problems that we hear quite a bit. With the last upgrade, the My Grades view changed significantly, and that caused a fair amount of problems for students. So the first thing you'll notice if you've seen the My Grades page currently is this new version has a lot less white space. It's still open, it's still less cluttered, but it's easier to view more of those columns, more of the rows here on a single page. So there's less scrolling. You'll also notice that there are filtering options across the top so that students can either view all of the grades on one page, or they can just look at those that have already been graded, perhaps those that are still upcoming, and those that are submitted and waiting for grading. So they can focus on what they're interested in now. This upgrade also adds a feature we've had several requests for. Excuse me, my voice is going. And that's the ability for students to view their grades in the course order that is set in the Grade Center. Right now, students, regardless of how faculty members have set up the Grade Center columns, students view them in a sort of a combination of what's been a filtered view of what's calculated versus graded versus upcoming, and don't have a way to really structure and organize that in a way that makes sense to them. So now, with this course order view, students can view the grades in My Grades in the same order their faculty set it up in the Grade Center, which will help, I think, students be far more organized in the way they look at these results. They can also then choose other options under Order By, but having that course order has been quite often requested. And then another change that, again, I think makes a world of difference is that feedback, the comments that you make in the comments window, are going to be visible now on screen. You'll notice that they are truncated as they get longer, but the comment itself is visible, and then the arrow here just below would make that row taller and show the entire comment. So students don't have to click a link about comments in order to go see that. And I think that's probably been frustrating for many students in that they're missing on comments that are actually there and they just didn't know how to find. For faculty, there are a few changes coming to the Grade Center. These, as I said, are mostly minor enhancements that will just perhaps allow you to customize and work with the Grade Center a little bit more streamlined. The first one is that when tests are created, the Grade Center column has a number of points allocated based on an auto summation of all of the questions on the test. Generally, this is exactly what we want, right? The test had 50 questions. We want the column to be worth 50 points. There are, however, some times when you need to adjust that total. So this upgrade adds a checkbox that lets you manually override the calculated total. There's also an enhancement to grading schemas. Grading schemas as they currently exist go to up to 100%, and then any grade over 100% for our really overachieving students don't get ever converted to a letter. They just see the percentage then that they've earned, or the points sometimes that they've earned, depending on the specifications. So now, grading schemas are allowed to go over 100%. So you can set your A letter grade to go maybe from whatever your lower end cutoff is based on your grading scale, up to 110, 25, 150% to capture any students who go over 100% for their final grade. Again, that particularly in conjunction with the grade submission tool we have here at NIU that lets you submit your grades from Blackboard directly to MyNIU will make a big difference because you won't have to manually adjust grades for students who are over 100%. And the final Grade Center enhancement actually isn't even a Grade Center enhancement. It's an enhancement across Blackboard that takes some of the burden off of the Grade Center. If you have an assignment or a test that allows students to make multiple attempts, you also get then the ability to change how those attempts are graded, how they're scored. And historically, you've had the same options you will going forward, and you can choose from the last graded attempt, the first one, the highest grade, the lowest grade, or you can average those grades. Well, going forward now, instead of going to the Grade Center and editing the column in order to make that selection, you'll actually be able to change that setting in the settings for the test or assignment that you're creating. So this is actually, as you can see by the forced completion and set timer options, this is actually the test options for a test. And because I've turned on the multiple attempts checkbox, I also then get to determine how I want those attempts to be scored. This, again, just simplifies the workflow and I think makes it easier and makes it more obvious to you how that is being determined, how those grades are being addressed by Blackboard. And then The final new enhancement is actually to a tool you may not have ever knew existed. There is a tool in Blackboard called Course Messages. These allow students to send you essentially an internal Blackboard message. And in the past, we have heartily discouraged faculty from using these. In fact, we have encouraged turning them off entirely because it's really easy to miss them. If a student sends you a message, there was no visible notification to you anywhere that a message existed. You had to go into the course and into the message tool to see if there was a message there. Now, course messages have been added to the general notification framework. That means when you receive a message, it will be visible under course updates here on the home page. This is actually at NIU, we call this home page, not course updates, but it will be visible here. It will be visible in your My Blackboard global navigation menu as well as on your My Blackboard page. And you can also set custom triggers so that new messages will generate emails or other types of notifications to you so that you are aware when those messages are posted. Again, it would be then up to you to determine whether or not you wanted to use or encourage your students to use messages, but because they're now visible, because there's now a notification, they actually become somewhat useful, whereas in the past they were just a headache. So that's a lot, right? And I ran through it, I know, really quickly just to kind of let you know what is available. I encourage you to go and look at more information at niu.edu/blackboard/upgrade. This is the site where we have all of the details on these features that are coming to Blackboard in May. We also will have an ongoing series of workshops. Right now, here's the one from today. Look at that. You can go to the workshops page on the Upgrade site to find out when those upcoming workshops will be available. There'll be one more preview before the upgrade. Afterwards, we will do some hands-on tune-up workshops where you'll actually be able to get your hands on some of these features, as well as over the summer, some targeted workshops on specific features like the Achievements, Explore, and a few others. So I encourage you to look for those workshops and attend to find out more, as well as contact myself or any of my colleagues if you have any ongoing questions. So I'm going to pause now. If you have any questions, feel free to post those in the text chats. I see a number of people typing, so I will give you a moment to do so. All right, well, if there are no immediate questions, I will stay around, but I'm going to close the recording. Thank you for all of us watching the recording. Have a great day to you.